In the remote reaches of the North Atlantic, where mist and storm conspire to shroud jagged outcrops in perpetual grey, stands the Flannan Isles Lighthouse, an unassuming sentinel built to tame the sea's fury. Its beam, once a beacon of hope for passing mariners, now casts a spectral glow upon a mystery that has haunted these islands for more than a century. On a bleak winter's morning in December of 1900, the steamer Arctur ploughed through churning seas towards Scotland's Western Isles. Aboard, relief keeper Joseph Moore carried supplies and mail for the three men who tended the lighthouse: Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald McArthur. For 15 months, the trio had rotated through fortnightly watches, their world confined to salt-sprayed walls, a solitary lamp stove, and the endless roar of waves. As the Arctur's captain guided his vessel toward Eilean Mòr, the Big Isle, snow flurries danced across the deck, and wind howled through the rigging. Moore leaped ashore, expecting a routine arrival. Instead, he found the front door unlocked, a lantern hanging silently in the vestibule, its wick still warm. No voices greeted him. No footprints marked the fresh snow, only the distant hiss of the North Atlantic. Inside the kitchen, the hatch lay open. 3 wooden chairs lay overturned around the small table, as though the men had risen abruptly and fled. A half loaf of bread and a bowl of cold porridge sat untouched, the steam long since dissipated. Moore's knuckles whitened against his oilskin coat. On the landing, the keeper's logbook lay open at the previous day's entry. Wednesday, 12th December 1900. Storm abating. All well. No mention of trouble. Yet by that entry, the 3 keepers had vanished. Moore climbed to the upper levels, discovering more unsettling evidence. In the men's quarters, beds remained unmade. A single oilskin jacket lay crumpled on the floor. A brass clock stood frozen at 8:30 a.m. In the lamp room, the weight-driven rotation mechanism had run down. No one had wound it the previous night. Below, the storeroom doors swung freely, but every barrel and crate remained stocked. No hurried departures or emergency voyages. Word of the disappearance reached the Northern Lighthouse Board in Edinburgh. Within days, the relief vessel Hesperus arrived, carrying inspectors and local police. Battling gale-force winds that whipped seawater across their coats, they scoured the island from headland to cave. They probed every crevice where a man might cling, searched 3 small stone cribs carved into the shoreline for stranded fishermen, and combed the rocky beaches for bodies or debris. They found nothing. No bloodstains, no footprints leading away, no signs of struggle. Only gulls wheeling overhead and the relentless roar of the surf. Central to the mystery was the keeper's gig, a sturdy rowing boat used to ferry supplies and post between the isles. It remained tied to its davit arm on the jetty, lines taut, oars secured. The davit bore no fresh abrasions. No distress flare had been fired. With the sea state moderate, the gig should have been seaworthy. And yet all 3 men were gone, the boat unmanned and unscathed. Thomas Marshall, the senior keeper, had served on clipper ships in his youth, braving the Cape Horn gales and learning to read the sea like a second language. James Ducat, fond of sea shanties and midnight storytelling, often recited verses beneath the light's arc, his voice carrying across the black water. Donald McArthur, the youngest, wrote letters home to his wife in Oban each week, describing in meticulous detail the sunrise over lonely waves. Each man brought a lifetime of seamanship and camaraderie to Eilean Mòr, and yet none returned. Some officials proposed a rogue wave, a sudden, monstrous wall of water rising without warning, sweeping the keepers from the jetty as they tended the lamp's upkeep. The North Atlantic is notorious for its capricious seas. Waves twice the height of those around them can materialize without notice. Yet, the gig lay intact. How could 3 experienced seamen be washed away without capsizing their vessel? Rumours whispered of practical jokes among the isolated keepers. Marshall's dry wit, Ducat's hearty laughter, and MacArthur's playful antics had forged a bond that kept loneliness at bay. Had one jest sent them too close to the cliff's edge at dawn? Could a sudden gust have toppled them into the void? But no footprints or scrape marks appeared on the headland's edge, no evidence of a misstep. Long before the lighthouse stood, Eilean Mòr spoke of phantom lights dancing above the cliffs, guiding lost fishermen to their doom rather than safety. Fishermen told of a sea maiden whose song lured mariners into hidden reefs. On storm-shrouded nights, mainland villagers swore they heard faint singing carried on the wind. Such tales, passed down for generations, fueled speculation that the Flannans were haunted by more than just memory. 3 decades later, in 1931, Deputy Keeper Storer Guard recorded an eerie recollection. He had stood on the mainland jetty, staring toward Eilean Mòr's dark outline, when he glimpsed flickering lights, 3 lanterns walking along the cliff path. By the time his boat drew near, the isles lay empty in the dawn's pale light. Fog had swallowed everything. Guard admitted fog could play tricks, reflected moonlight, bioluminescent plankton stirring the shallows, but his account added an otherworldly layer to an already confounding tale. Recent historians have revisited weather logs. December 1900 saw unremarkable gales, not the apocalyptic storms some had imagined. Sea state charts indicate waves averaged 6 to 8 feet, conditions well within the keeper's experience. That morning's tide was ebbing, pulling away from the shoreline rather than battering it. A rogue wave remains possible, but statistically unlikely. Engineers have inspected the lighthouse's granite tower and outbuildings. Built in 1899 to withstand the worst the Atlantic could muster, its stonework shows no new cracks or damage dating to the disappearance. The iron handrails along the jetty, though weathered by time, bear no fresh rust lines or distorted bends. Investigators concluded no structural failure or accident within the lighthouse itself caused the men's demise. Still, Eilean Mòr's geography presents hidden perils. The island's western cliffs plunge sheer into swirling currents. Narrow fissures, some over 50 feet deep, riddle the rock face. In near darkness, a man might lose his footing and vanish into an abyss within seconds. 3 keepers, walking abreast to inspect the lamp's mechanism or retrieve tools, could have unwittingly aligned themselves above such a fissure. One misstep, 3 lives ended. In the past decade, marine archaeologists have mapped the seabed around the Flannans using sonar. Their scans revealed no debris fields, no evidence of a shipwreck, and no large objects suggesting human remains below. The seabed here slopes steeply. Any bodies would be drawn into deep trenches, far beyond the reach of typical recovery efforts. After 1971, the Flannan Isles station was automated. First acetylene gas, then electricity powered the lamp. Today, an LED beacon pulses every 30 seconds, visible across miles of open ocean. Managed remotely from Edinburgh, the light's solitude remains unbroken. Yet some remote operators report an uncanny sensation, an unshakable feeling of being watched during stormy nights when the foghorn's mournful cry mingles with the wind through the lenses. In recent years, adventurous teams of remote sensing specialists have set foot on Eilean Mòr for the first time. Wrapped in insulated gear, they stand where Mòr once stood, enthralled by the same wind-whipped silence. Their drones sweep the cliffs. Their instruments record invisible vibrations. Yet even with maps, sonars, and high-definition cameras, they find only emptiness. No final resting place for the keepers, no residual clues beyond those locked in century-old logs. The disappearance of Marshal Ducat and MacArthur endures as one of maritime history's most haunting enigmas. Their last recorded words, "all well," stand in stark contrast to the stark emptiness they left behind. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse, built to guide ships, now guides our collective fascination with the unknowable. For more than 120 years, scholars, writers, and dreamers have sought answers, each returned with fresh theories, each layer of speculation adding to the enigma. The Atlantic keeps its secrets in deep trenches and hidden caverns. And still, the lighthouse on Eilean Mòr shines, bright, unwavering, and haunting, beckoning us to peer beyond the horizon and to accept that some mysteries are destined to remain. As you consider the lonely stone tower perched against the grey horizon, remember, our greatest stories are often those without endings. The men of the Flannan Isles live on in our imaginations, spectres walking eternally along mist-lashed cliffs. Their story reminds us that, in the face of the vast unknown, we are both small and endlessly curious. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, and leave a comment telling us which mystery you want unraveled next. Your curiosity powers our exploration. Join us on this voyage through time.